They say you never forget the moment your life changes. For me, it started with a knock. Not the kind you expect, like the neighbor asking to borrow a wrench or the UPS guy dropping off a package. No, this one was different. 3 slow knocks. Heavy. Intentional. Like someone was testing the weight of what they were about to deliver. I opened the door. There stood a man. Mid-30s. Athletic. Wearing a gray hoodie, faded jeans, and an expression that looked like regret wrapped in guilt. "Are you Kyle Monroe?" he asked. "Yeah." He paused, looked past me, then said, "I'm sorry. I think you need to know. I've been seeing your wife." He didn't run, didn't flinch, just stood there, letting the words hang in the air like a dropped match waiting for a fire. I didn't say anything. I couldn't. It was like someone had taken my whole brain and just turned off the sound. He looked down, then handed me a small envelope. "There are pictures, messages, everything. I didn't know she was married when it started. I ended it when I found out. But I figured you deserved the truth." I took the envelope. He nodded once, turned, and walked down the steps. And just like that, my life split clean in two. I didn't open the envelope right away. I just sat at the kitchen table, staring at it. My wife, Amanda, was at the grocery store. Said she'd be back in an hour. She kissed me on the cheek before leaving. Said she'd grab those almond crackers I like. Almond crackers. What a joke. When I finally tore the envelope open, I already knew what I'd find. Photos. Texts. Her face smiling at him like she used to smile at me. It was all there. Time-stamped. Undeniable. And somehow, the worst part wasn't that she cheated. It was that she looked happy doing it. I didn't confront her that night. When she walked in carrying bags of groceries, humming like life was just fine, I looked up and smiled. She smiled back. Told me she forgot the crackers, but got pretzels instead. I nodded. Said, "No problem." Then helped her put the bags away. She kissed me again. And I let her. That night I couldn't sleep. I lay awake beside her, staring at the ceiling, while she breathed soft and steady next to me. I thought about how easy it had become for her to lie. How many nights like this one had played out while she snuck around behind my back. I wasn't angry. Not yet. Just cold. Like something inside me had been unplugged. The next morning, I got up early. Drove to work like usual. Answered emails. Took calls. Fixed the printer jam. But in the back of my mind, something new had begun to take shape. Not revenge. Not yet. Just questions. Why? How long? And how do you look someone in the eye after they've quietly dismantled your life? I started watching. Not like a stalker. Not a creep. Just paying attention. Amanda's patterns. Her smiles. Her late returns from yoga class. I studied her the way you study a house when you suspect it has termites. Calm. Methodical. Silent. Because this wasn't about catching her anymore. That part was over. This was about deciding what to do next. And I had a feeling. That part was going to be much, much louder. The first thing you lose after the truth is trust. But right behind it comes memory. Because once the truth breaks the surface, everything you thought was solid gets re-examined. What looked like love might have been convenience. What sounded like honesty might have been routine. Over the next week, I moved through my life like a man walking through a model home. It looked like mine. But it wasn't real. Amanda didn't change. Not visibly. She still made dinner. Still laughed at reality shows. Still reminded me to take out the trash on Tuesdays. But now I noticed the little things. The way she always kept her phone face down. How her smile arrived half a second too late. The sudden emotional distance when I mentioned our anniversary, just a month away. She wasn't my wife anymore. She was a person wearing her skin, reading from the same script, only I'd stopped believing the lines. I started documenting. Not because I needed proof. I already had that. But because I needed clarity, understanding, an organized record of betrayal. I built a folder on my laptop, buried under innocuous names. Each file contained something: phone logs, photos, timestamps, notes. I even charted patterns, dates when she came home late, excuses she gave, shifts in behavior. What began as observation turned into something colder, something strategic. Not out of spite. Not yet. Out of preparation. It's strange how betrayal strips the humanity out of a relationship. She wasn't Amanda anymore. She was a problem to solve. One night, I watched her as she slept. Not in a creepy way. Just as a man quietly studying what had once been sacred. I remembered how I used to feel comfort beside her. Warmth. Connection. Purpose. Now, she just took up space. That realization should have shattered me. But it didn't. Instead, it steadied me. Because when something breaks this quietly, you don't scream. You plan. I began withdrawing cash in small amounts. Opening a separate checking account. Selling off collectibles, quietly online. Reorganizing the mortgage documents. Step by step, I was pulling my life out from under her feet. Not with drama. Not with fury. With intent. She noticed none of it. That's what happens when someone thinks they've gotten away with something. They let their guard down. They get careless. And that's exactly what I needed. Because when the trap closes, it shouldn't make a sound. Not until it's far too late. The second week after the revelation passed as if underwater. Everything slowed down. Sounds became muffled. People at work were talking, but I couldn't hear the words, only noise. I woke up, moved, worked, ate. But inside me, I was no longer there. There was something else, something cold, something precise. Inside, I no longer asked questions. I no longer wanted to know why. I knew enough. Now it was a matter of technique. I began to gather tools. Not a hammer. Not a knife. Tools to destroy reputations. Finances. Status. Tools to crush without a scream. While she drank her morning coffee, I copied her messages from the cloud. While she dried her hair in the bathroom, I photographed the documents hidden in her drawer. Everything that had once seemed personal was now evidence. I wasn't looking for revenge in the usual sense. I wanted balance. I wanted every step she took from now on to remind her of her betrayal. I wanted her new life to start not with a clean slate, but with ashes. It's amazing how easy it is to destroy when the feeling inside has long since died. I watched her like a hunter watches its prey. Not with hatred. With concentration. I knew what to say. I knew when to be silent. I knew when to look her in the eyes, and when to look away so she wouldn't sense anything. She had no idea. Of course not. She thought it was all over. That the secret was buried. She laughed on the phone. She sang while driving. She left her keys in plain sight, as if she had nothing to hide. But the calmer her life seemed, the tighter I pulled the rope around her. By the end of the third week, I had everything ready. A separate account. A cash buffer. The details of her second SIM card. A video clip from the hotel parking lot camera. And most importantly, my exit. Legally clean, morally justified. The plan wasn't just to destroy her. The plan was to put an end to her, so that she would be afraid of even a comma. I watched her at breakfast. She was laughing at something on her phone. She asked if I wanted to go to the lake on the weekend. I nodded. I said it sounded great, but in my head, I was already counting down 5 days. In 5 days, it would all begin. And once it began, there would be no turning back. On the 4th day, I woke up before my alarm clock. My body knew it was time. The world was still asleep. But inside me, everything was already working according to a precise plan. Today is the day when everything changes. For her, it will be sudden. For me, it will be final. First things first, the letter. I put it in a black envelope and carefully signed it with her full name. Inside was a dossier. Everything I had collected. Facts, bills, screenshots, video footage, confirmations. Everything was laid out strictly and dispassionately, like evidence in a case where the jury had long since reached a verdict. I attached a copy of the power of attorney I had drawn up for the sale of her car. I was the co-owner. The law was on my side. Then the calls. Not impulsive. Calm, restrained. The lawyer, the employer, her mother. Each got their share of the truth. Only the truth that would be useful. No shouting. No drama. Just information. And silence after that. I came home early that afternoon. She wasn't back yet. On the kitchen table was the box where we kept our albums and postcards. I took everything out. I laid it out. I looked at it. And I burned it. Not in a fit of rage, but like someone taking out the trash after renovating. When she came in, her smile froze. There was only an envelope on the table. She took it. Slowly. She sat down. She read it. Page after page. Her face turned gray. It was as if the air in the room had changed, and she suddenly began to suffocate. I didn't say a word. Neither did she. We sat in complete silence for about 10 minutes. Then she got up. She went to the bedroom. She came back with a bag. She asked for the car keys. I handed her the papers. The car was sold. The money had been transferred. Everything was legal. She didn't cry. She wasn't angry. She just understood. And that was enough. When the door closed behind her, I didn't feel victorious. Only clarity. As if everything had finally fallen into place. Justice is not a loud act. It is the silence after the fall. The clock ticked in the kitchen. Birds sang outside the window. And I just sat there. In an empty, but now truly mine house. After everything, a strange silence descends. Not relief. Not joy. Just silence. Like in a house after a fire, when you can no longer hear the crackling, but the smell of smoke still hangs in the air. I didn't sleep the first night. I just sat in a chair and stared at the wall. No TV. No phone. Not because it was bad, but because it was truly empty. And in that emptiness, I began to sort out what was left. The house is now mine alone. Each room is no longer a stage for a performance. The shelves were empty of her books. The wardrobe was free of traces of other people's plans. I cleared everything out. Neatly. Without hysterics. I packed her things into boxes. I gave them to a shelter. I deleted the photos. I deleted the numbers. Not out of malice. Out of necessity. People started asking questions. Neighbors. Where's Amanda? Colleagues. Are you okay? Is everything all right? Relatives. Are you sure you had to do it so abruptly? I responded in the same manner. She left. The rest is none of your concern. And that was enough. A week later, it became easier to breathe. I noticed how slowly my sense of taste was returning. Coffee tasted bitter, like it used to. Mornings were cool and fresh. Music sounded like music again, not just background noise. I started going for runs. I developed rituals, simple, honest ones. Before, I lived to maintain appearances. Now, I live to simply live. One day, I found an old postcard from her. "Happy birthday," it said. "You are the most stable thing in my life. Thank you for that." I didn't tear it up. I just put it back. Let it stay there. Like an exhibit. A reminder of what lies look like when they're disguised as gratitude. I thought revenge would bring satisfaction. But it brought peace. Quiet, smooth, without any outbursts. As if everything inside me had finally settled down. And that's exactly what I wanted. Not to get it back. Not to fix it. Just to start over, without lies. Peace is not a state of mind. It is a decision. To accept that there is nothing left to fix. Nothing to save. And no one should come back. A month later, I sold the sofa where we used to watch TV series together. Then the kitchen table where she wrote her vacation plans. Not because I couldn't look at them, but because I didn't want to live in a museum of betrayal. I changed the furniture, rearranged the cabinets, repainted the walls. Not to forget, but to erase the traces of a play in which I was assigned the role of the background. Now every corner of the house belonged to me, not to memories. My neighbor, an elderly Mrs. Rose, once asked me, "Don't you miss her? The way things were?" I smiled. Who she was, or who I thought she was? She didn't answer. She just nodded. I changed my car, my phone number, my mailbox. I created a new email account. I deleted my old accounts. Not out of paranoia. Out of a desire to never be found by the past again. One rainy Saturday, I received a letter. No sender's name. Inside was a thin piece of paper with a short line. "I'm sorry." No signature. No explanation. Just 3 words. I put the paper in the fireplace. I lit the corner. And watched it smolder, curling into ash. Like everything she left behind. In the evening, I went outside. A cool wind. The smell of wet earth. No voices in my head. Just me. And a life that finally belonged to me. Some people think the end of a story is the destination. It's not. It's the moment you decide not to go back. And I decided. 3 months passed. At first, the days passed slowly. Then they passed rhythmically. And then I realized I wasn't counting anymore. It was a sign that everything had settled inside me. I no longer looked for familiar faces in the crowd. I didn't wait for letters. I didn't hope for explanations. And, most importantly, I didn't ask myself, what if? No. What ifs? Just as it is. On weekends, I started driving out of town. In an old pickup truck, listening to slow music. To the middle of nowhere, where my phone loses reception and my mind finds silence. I learned to drink coffee without thinking. To cook for one with pleasure. To live without having to prove my worth to anyone. Once, I ran into an acquaintance in town. He asked, "How did you cope?" I didn't answer right away. And then I said, "I didn't cope. I stopped fighting." I didn't forgive her. I don't need to. I accepted that she was a choice I made back then, when I was different. Now I'm new, calm, even, free. The pain didn't go away right away. It didn't take a day. It was like rust, slow, layer by layer. And now, only pure metal remains. Rough, but real. There is a photograph on my bookshelf. I'm fishing, laughing, my face in the sun. Without her. Without the past. The photo isn't about memory. It's a reminder. Everything I need is already inside me. The story isn't over. It just stopped repeating itself. And that, as it turns out, is the real victory.